Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's Friday. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to Friday. Timstradamus, how does a ghost unlock a door?
He walks through it.
Using a spooky.
Spooky. Okay. One day I'll actually guess it right.
One day.
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, why don't we jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning kippa brew. What did you create today?
I crafted you a tea that's a bit fruity. It's got pineapple, orange slices, mango, strawberries, hibiscus, and marigold.
It smells really good. Oh, wow. That's a 10 out of 10. 1,000 out of 1,000. Million out of million. That's really good.
I know the tropical flavors get you.
Oh, we're going to be making more of that.
Good thing it's relatively easy to make.
Oh.
Well, now that I've gone ahead and I've quenched your thirst for a little, let's go ahead and delve right into these stories. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below.
What did you name that tea, by the way?
This tea?
Yeah, what is it?
You want to help me name it?
I shall name it Tropical Boo Tea.
Tropical Booty.
Yes.
I agree. What a beautiful name.
There you go.
For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling the new girl at work what everyone says about her? Throwaway, because I know she uses Reddit too and might check my profile. To preface, I already feel bad, but thought I'd ask everyone else too. I, 24 male, have been working at the same office for 4 years. Recently, a new girl, 25 female, joined because her father passed away and she needed the money. Her dad was a powerful and influential man, and we all knew that. Anyway, she is very liberal and open-minded, even though we work in a very conservative environment. She's also very naive. She brings in cake, tea, lunch, and ice cream for everyone at work from time to time, even though no one does the same for her. Well, eventually, she and I became friends. She would joke with me, lightly touch me, and invite me to hang out with her mom and friends. Except that I knew this would lead to gossip, and it sure did. Our coworker started gossiping about us two dating secretly, and called her easy behind her back. So I had to make a bad choice. I texted her a few nights ago that we can't be friends anymore because people are saying shit about us. Instead of understanding, she asked me to elaborate, so I told her the truth. She remained quiet a bit, then said goodnight, and that was it. It has been 2 days since that conversation, and she has gone dead silent. She doesn't talk to anyone, and specifically ignores me even if I greet her first. It was her birthday today, and she didn't even tell anyone or celebrate. I feel like shit for being the one to tell her, but I couldn't bear to see her career and character being affected by accusations. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? I should apologize, shouldn't I?
Wow. What a great story to start off Friday with. How old is OP?
He says he's 24.
Okay, and the girl in the story is 24.
25.
25, okay. So he says she's a recent new hire, but she was the daughter of someone that used to work there.
That was powerful and influential.
Yeah, okay. And I hate the way he describes her, by the way. There's a couple choice words in there.
Please tell us these choice words.
I think one of them was naive. He sprinkled in there liberal. And then I think he was complaining that she was too nice because she was bringing in things for people to have at work.
Correct. So let me go ahead and give you an example in the comment section that he actually put down for everyone. He said the reason why he called her naive is because for her very first check, she actually treated everyone out to lunch, even though she's getting minimum compared to everybody else.
Okay. So I still don't understand where he saw naive was, because if her father was a very influential person and high up in the company, she probably has come from money. So she probably doesn't need it the same way ROP does. But let's say for sake of argument, she wasn't using her parents' money, because that's really unfair of me to assume that. If that's what she wanted to do with her money, and maybe that's a little bit out of the blue, but if that's her way of showing that she appreciates where she's at and the people she works with and wants to make a connection. Does that make someone naive?
I don't believe so. I feel like rather than him say that she's naive, he probably just should have said that she's too kind-hearted.
And that's more where I'm in the boat of, because I guess he's confusing being nice as being naive. It shows more about him than it does her. He's very callous in the way he talks about her and the situation. And I think the thing that rubs me a sort of way is, well, they called her easy now that we're hanging out together. Okay. And what does it matter what other people's opinions of you are? Or the girl that you're hanging out with? Because they're not dating or anything. They're simply just hanging out.
Correct.
She's embraced ROP, it sounds. Said that she invited him to hang out with her mother and her friends. Where do you get off allowing other people's opinions in your relationship with her? And if they really did have that opinion, why didn't you, if it bothered you that much to the point where you have told ROP what other people think of her, why didn't you then just go ahead and end that at the door and go, hey, by the way, we're not dating, we're friends? Where was it okay that you let that happen? Again, it shows more about you as a person than it does your kind-hearted former friend. She has every right to exclude you now from what she's doing. You've made that workplace toxic by the way you've accepted their culture. Culture starts with you first.
Agreed.
And what you're willing to accept out of it. OP, you are the embodiment of someone shallow. Appearances meant more to you than the actual friendship that you guys were making. I hope you learn from this experience. Stop letting other people's opinions dictate what relationships you do or do not have.
I agree with that.
Ooh. Wah. I just, man, it befuddles the mind.
Well, let me go ahead and give you the consensus, and then we're going to delve into the story a bit deeper than you expected.
No.
For the consensus, our OP is definitely the a-hole, and individuals were calling him out. So rather than go ahead and stick by your friend, you went ahead and you sided with everybody in the office and then decided to ostracize her too. Nice one, man. And now let me go ahead and provide you with some more of what our OP says.
No.
So in the comment section, he puts down, if you're seriously asking, then yes, she is popular for being the Nepo baby who didn't need to work until she lost her dad. She also dresses in pants and shirts and has short hair as compared to the women in the office who wear extremely feminine clothing. Along with that, she is the only person in our wing who has her own car and driver. As far as the cakes go, they all love her when it comes to free food. I see them all flocking around her the second she brings treats. Hell, I've seen them ask her for tea and snacks every now and then. And finally, as far as she and I go, she is very friendly at work. Sometimes she throws a paper ball at me to get my attention, steals my office chair, taps me with her pen, etc. The sexual comment started when one day I reached out and asked her for some office supplies, and she took my hand instead and burst into laughter. Another time, I was squatting to look at a file, and she pushed me to make me stumble. They were fun actions, but the older people in our office didn't take kindly to it. Now that I've gone ahead and provided you that, for my personal insight, I think she liked him.
I mean, based off of all that, yeah, that sounds like everyone's first crush when they were younger if they worked in any type of setting in an office. That sounds like that.
And I think he messed it up.
Big time.
So let me go ahead and provide you with edits that he actually put in his post. Thank you everyone for the advice. I felt terrible and apologized to her in person and on text as well. She ignored me in person, but did reply on text, and I think she did forgive me. I also plan to bring her a cake on Monday to celebrate her birthday, but she said she doesn't need a cake because she doesn't like anyone at work enough to celebrate with them. However, she has invited me to hang out with her friends sometime in the future, so I guess we're all right now. Edit 2. I suppose my apology isn't enough, and that's why she's refused the cake. I suppose it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I thought our friendship wouldn't work and essentially destroyed it myself. I hope she's doing okay. She's a fighter. Edit 3. I am deeply sorry for my actions and the guilt is eating at me. I am sorry, Reddit. And I'm sorry to my dear friend who needed me, but I was too much of a pussy to step in and help her. Final edit. She sent me a text on WhatsApp with a link to this thread asking if that's me. I confessed. She started laughing and asked me if I learned my lesson yet. I was too upset to make jokes, so I didn't answer. After a while, she texted me that she was still mad at me, but she accepted my apology. We'll be setting some boundaries now, and on Monday, we're both applying for a transfer of branch.
All right. Well, it worked out the way it was supposed to. I guess it sounds like to me that our OP, being 25 or 24,
24.
let other people dictate relationships that he should or shouldn't be in. But I can also understand that being that young, especially when you get into an office setting, sometimes looking out for yourself and making sure that you're not misunderstanding something that's happening is important too. We live in a different climate today. So maybe for him, he's looking out to make sure, because no one else is going to pay your bills. I can definitely understand being young and being in an office setting that sometimes you need to take things a little more cautiously, because if you lost your job because of a misunderstanding, or if people were saying something to HR that wasn't true, that could hurt a lot. So not knowing his financial position in life, being that he is young, I guess I can't fault him for being more safe than sorry. At least I can say this for him. When he realized what he did, he addressed it, he apologized. Whether or not he's handling it the right way going further, it is what it is, but at least he got to see that he's wrong and he's understanding that.
So let me go ahead and tell you my perspective on this. One, he's definitely the a-hole, of course, for his action and his inactions. Now, the romantic in me says, I hope you guys change branches. One, because you don't need to be where these people are toxic. And apparently this toxic environment has been stewing for a while, that they are willing and ready to go ahead and talk about the next person coming in.
Sure. Wait, are they trying to move to the same branch together?
I don't know if they're trying to move together, but
okay,
if she's invited him to his friend group and they're no longer going to be in the same branch, for me, that would mean that it should be no problem with them potentially dating if that's the next step. I wish him good luck. It seems like he's just a little bit dense. Well, let's go ahead and step into our next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my former stepdaughter's fiancé should not be stealing my role as my kid's father? My ex and I have 3 kids, 7 female, 2 female, 18-month male. My ex also has a 20-year-old daughter, Grace, and Grace is engaged to her high school boyfriend, Liam, 20. Grace and Liam moved 6 hours away from us when they started college. When my ex and I divorced, she and the kids moved to be down the street from Grace and Liam. Since they moved, almost every picture my ex has posted or sent has involved Liam. There's videos of Liam coaching my son through his first steps, him teaching my 7-year-old how to ride her bike, Liam and Grace at the beach with the kids. It's so common, I asked if Grace and Liam were living with them. My oldest had a daddy-daughter dance at her school. I was not notified. I found out by seeing a picture of Liam and my oldest on my wife's Facebook with the caption, Daddy-Daughter Dance 2023. My kid has her grandpa and 3 uncles within 10 minutes of her, but my ex chose Liam to take her to this event. After seeing the post, I told her I am done with Liam taking over my role as the kid's dad and that I'm not okay with him being alone with the kids. I told her that if I continue to see Liam pretending to be their dad, I will take her back to court for custody. My ex said someone has to fill that role since I can't bother visiting, working to pay her child support and alimony, and only talking to them once a week at best. It seems that every time I call, they have ballet, gymnastics, swim, naps, school, or are out with Liam. Am I the a-hole for threatening to go back to court because my former stepdaughter's fiancé is pretending to be my kid's dad?
Well, this is a spicy meatball of very topical problems happening right now. Is this America?
Doesn't say.
Okay. So we'll get into the story. OP is divorced. He has an ex-wife and they share 3 kids together. And now his ex-wife has a 20-year-old daughter that they didn't have together.
Correct. A previous relationship.
And that daughter is together with Liam in our story.
Correct.
Okay. So Liam and her daughter move away, 6 hours away, for college. And now that ROP and his ex-wife are divorced, takes the kids and moves 6 hours away to be closer to, I guess, her eldest daughter. Let me ask you this, because we are dealing with children, and 6 hours is pretty far. I wonder, when they got the divorce, what did custody look like?
Inside the comments, they actually put down that she got approval to go ahead and move 6 hours away. It sounded like she might have lived near him for a bit and then got that approval potentially a bit later on. And I'm assuming the reason why is because his wife probably needed some help with the kids, and Grace and Liam sound to be the family that can assist. That's
an interesting thing, because you're right. If the court system was okay with them moving 6 hours away from the father, there obviously was a reason for that.
It also goes to head and show that primary physical custody would have been on the mother.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that our OP, he would have been able to fight this had they had more of a split custody.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is, what was custody? What was the arrangement that they came to in the court? Because it doesn't sound like he had split or any type of visitation.
No, the only thing that he puts in the comments was where they were living at, she couldn't get a job and she couldn't survive off the child support and alimony. She wanted to be near to her family, and I guess there were better job opportunities.
I mean, he lays it out there. That all is very logical. If you can't get a job where you're at, you need to go where you can get a job and support your family. And he says that even with alimony and child support, she couldn't afford to live there. All right. So he's outlining all of these points that make sense. His ex moves down 6 hours away to be closer to family and to get job opportunities. She brings the 3 kids with them. The 3 kids now are spending a lot of time with her eldest boyfriend, Liam. And now he's fulfilling that role as a father figure for those 3 kids. And the only reason why we know this is because ROP has said on many Facebook postings or just social media postings in general that he's seeing Liam with his daughter at a dance, seeing Liam with one of his youngest walking for the first time. You're missing out on a lot. Those are big moments. And his reasoning for this is he's working. So I don't know how true that is or not. If he is working, he doesn't specify what he does for a living or what his hours look like.
No.
So me judging him on that, I can't say, because every situation is different and unique. What I can tell you is, if it's important enough, especially when it comes to your kids, you will make it happen. Yes, I do understand that there is a 6-hour drive between homes. That sucks. But it still does not give you an excuse to be absent. Now, he does say something interesting. Every time he calls his kids, there's always an excuse why they're not talking to him, either through activities or whatnot. This sounds like something where, especially at that age, because they're all very young, the court system would definitely have had something worked out.
Oh, yes.
Based off of phone calls, visitation. I wonder why none of this was either talked about or arranged.
That is very interesting. The only thing that he says that's very telling to me is that he said, I tried to make her stay, but she was able to get permission from the court to leave.
See, there's a lot of bad in this story that we're not getting the full scope of. The fact that he was trying to keep her, even though he knew the details of it, right? She can't work over there and she can't afford to live over there. But you're going to try to force her to stay there? That's bad. Your kids are not talking to you.
But they're also very young.
They also weren't mandated by a court system to have those things in place.
But you never potentially asked for it, is what I'm thinking.
Not asked for it or wasn't granted? I mean, he asked for her to stay. I just can't believe a family lawyer would have allowed him to walk into a courtroom and not ask for phone calls and visitation.
At the very least.
That's where I'm like, there's stuff that's missing here.
I think what is bothering me is that he says, I'm going to take her back to court for custody because somebody's pretending to be me. Not because he'd like to spend time with his kids. Well, there have been a lot of Redditors that have asked, what was the reason for your divorce? He's answered a lot of things, but never that question.
That's interesting.
All I heard was negative jealousy throughout all of it. See, nowhere in his post does he say, Am I the a-hole for taking my ex to court because I'd like to spend more time with my kids? I don't think that the wife, the ex-wife, is innocent at all. I think she's instigating all these problems. I think that happens with a lot of extremely messy divorces.
I mean, this sounds like one of those.
And the only reason why I can say that is because I was a part of a very messy divorce when it came to my parents. I can't tell you how awful it was when I would expect to hear my dad's phone call on Fridays and I would not receive it. And the reason why I wouldn't receive it, because my mom and I would move to a new apartment or a new complex or wherever it is that we needed to go, and my mom never notified my father that we had moved. How many times I had to experience waiting for my father to pick me up on his weekend, and he never did because my mom never told him where we moved to.
And see, that's where I'm trying to make sure that we're not vilifying someone for trying, but both the parties are definitely the a-holes.
Oh, I don't think they're helping each other at all.
You're both got, it sounds like a very toxic divorce underway, and they're using the kids as a battleground.
Exactly. Do I say that the part of what he's having to deal with is easy? Oh, by no means no. But he won't answer the questions that are important. Why is it that this divorce happened to begin with? And what kind of, I guess you can say, what actions are you taking to ensure that you're still having the contact that you need with your children?
Sure. He definitely has to be accountable for him not being there. You can't just expect your kids to love you and want to spend time with you when you're being an absentee father. I think both the parents are a-holes. There's too much in this story that won't allow me to just say it's solely on him.
So when it comes to the consensus, it stems into the OP's the a-hole.
I figured.
But only because he wouldn't provide more information to let them know how everything is supposed to pan out. I think both the parents are the a-hole, and they really need to look to make sure that
those kids come first and they're not the battleground.
Exactly. Well, we saw a father who seems to be dropping the ball a little. Let's go ahead and see what's happening with this other couple and how they're treating their child.
Uh-oh.
Am I the a-hole for not helping with my stepdaughter? I, female 30, have been married to my husband, Dave, male 35, for 2 years. Been together for 5. He has a daughter from a past relationship, Eve, female 7. I have always been decidedly child-free. I don't like or want to be around children. When I met Dave, I didn't know he had a child. We had been dating for 4 months before I realized it. To people who asked why I didn't think to ask, we met at his house, at a party he hosted. There was no picture or anything indicating that there were kids around. In fact, his entire house screamed bachelor. White sofa, white bedding, extra clean infinity pool. I realized he had a kid only when her mom dropped her off without notice at his house when I was there. It was a shock. I told him I am child-free and need to end the relationship, but he begged me to stay. I told him in no uncertain terms I don't want to be around or raise a child. He agreed. He even got a vasectomy to prove to me he is serious. Eve lived with her mom most of the time and visited every other weekend. I took off these weekends. Basically, I still led a child-free life. All that changed 2 months ago when Eve's mom remarried. Her husband didn't want any kids previous to their marriage around. Eve's mom decided since she took care of Eve for 7 years, it was now Dave's turn too. She told him that as she gave the kid to him. Their custody agreement flipped, basically. Dave does love his kid and doesn't want her to suffer. He tried getting his mom to look after her, but his mom, having just retired, refuses to work anymore. Dave was forced into keeping Eve full-time. This meant major adjustment to me as well. I had to learn to live with a kid in the house. I just avoided her at all costs, even though it was affecting my relationship with Dave, as in we didn't get enough together time. Last week, though, Dave fell sick. He needed me to take care of Eve. I tried the first day, but it was weird, awkward, and exhausting. Second day onwards, I just got a babysitter on my dime. When Dave recovered enough yesterday, he was furious at me for putting his child with a babysitter and refusing to take care of her. I reminded him what our agreement was. He said it didn't matter, that I should have taken care of his kid, that he needed me to step up. He said this was just selfish of me and that I am an a-hole for doing this. Am I the a-hole?
These stories that you have picked are wild. Everyone sucks. All of you have allowed everyone else in your lives to tell you that your kids don't come first. The OP in this situation, leave Dave. Do yourself a favor. Leave him. He has a child. You never should have agreed to be in that relationship. Understand this, that when you get involved with someone that has a child, you too now are that child's, no matter what you think, you are a parental figure in that child's life. By you avoiding that 7-year-old around the house, you understand what you're doing to them mentally? You ever think about that just a little bit? She just got shepherded around from one parent to the other, and the mom said, I'm going to go ahead and abandon you with your father now because the partner I picked said he doesn't want a child around in the house. That's not his. Absolutely not. You do not let someone come into your life and tell you that the only way that you're going to stay around is that your blood not be around? Are you serious? And people allow that in their lives. Everyone's a clown in this story. The fact that you stayed with Dave, even though you knew he had a child, and accepted it. I don't care that you said, hey, I'll stay as long as I'm not a part of your daughter's life. By you even incentivizing that in a relationship, you're just as bad as Dave is, in my opinion. Now, I can understand just because someone has a child does not mean you have to love their child the way they do. I can agree with that. But you said your partner got sick. It took you one day to figure out that you did not want to take care of the child and you got a babysitter. And I'm guessing based off his reaction, you did not tell him about that. If I can't trust you around my child, then I can't trust you. The fact that both of these people, OP and his ex-wife, to have allowed people in their lives that said, it's disgusting that you have a child and they're not allowed to be around when I'm around, I'm floored. Why would you allow that in your life? I can understand being one of those people that doesn't put the child first. Because just because you have children doesn't mean you have to just completely let yourself go and only be at their whim. I think that's completely unhealthy too. You also have to still be a person and an adult.
There's always balance in everything.
You have to have it, but there's no balance here. I am so angry for that child. All of you are the a-holes.
Well, just to go ahead and provide you a little bit of information, our OP actually puts down in the comment section that her husband and his daughter's mother were never in a relationship together. It sounds like they just had a fling together. They're friends, and then they made a child, and then the mom wanted to keep it. Let me go ahead and give you Reddit's verdict, and then we can go ahead and go down this rabbit hole. The consensus was that she's the a-hole, solely in this situation for her comment. Now, let me go ahead and read to you an update that she put in her post. A lot of the comments are bashing me for having married a man with a child. I admit, I was being naive. All I can say is in the 5 years we were together, only time I saw the child before her mom's wedding was when she was dropped off. Dave kept the lives so easily separate it was easy to forget he had a child. Dave is not just a father. I loved him, married him, and stayed with him because he is an amazing partner for me. We share a lot of the same interests, and life with him was heaven. It only got bad once Eve moved in. All of you who are bashing me about being cold to her, we just don't cross paths. Our home is a pretty big one. She leaves for school before I get up. I will be working late and won't be at home when she gets back. When I get back, she would be in her room doing homework. I go to my room to freshen up. But the time I get downstairs to cook and eat, it will already be her bedtime. On weekends, dear husband takes her out with him, or I go out. We almost never cross paths. When I see her, I do smile. I do say hi. I don't go out of my way to see her or engage with her. That is it. The day I tried, she acted like a normal 7-year-old, I would think. She had school, so I had to make her breakfast, get her dressed, and drop her off. Got up early for that. She chatted nonstop, giving me a headache. I from home and got her an afternoon. Again, fixing food, helping with homework, getting her to eat dinner and tucking her in bed. Did all of it. I fell into bed with a huge headache. I asked my friends for an emergency babysitter and got the one they recommended, paid extra for the emergency. I was physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted by taking care of her. I had a professional take care of her for the rest of the days. I still checked on her and said goodnight every day. I am sorry, but as a person who physically and mentally can't take care of kids, this is the best I could do. So, let me go ahead and provide some perspective. Redditors really don't like the OP. And I must say I also don't like her as well. Someone in that home has a child. Your life can no longer be considered child-free.
Yep.
You can decide to be childless. You don't have to have children. But if you're with someone who has a child and you know this, and just because it didn't inconvenience you to begin with, now it is, and therefore it becomes a problem, I think that's where I start getting upset. Because you're treating a living, breathing, feeling thing as if they're no more than an object of annoyance, like a thorn in your side. This is a child that we're talking about. And it's a child that, man, I can't even imagine this little 7-year-old and what she's feeling. While the consensus was a majority, you're the a-hole, it still came up really close to everyone sucks here as well. It truly was split. The reason why the everyone sucks is exactly as you say it. All parties are being awful. But in this situation, I think one of the reasons why it's a majority that the OP's the a-hole, because she decided to go into this.
Sure, but so did her father. He knew what our OP did not want in life. He knew it, and she tells us he begs her to stay. That is just as bad.
I feel like the situation is a mucked up mess. But let me go to another Am I the A-hole posting. And let's go into our next story and see what's happening here.
I just feel bad for the girl.
As do I. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take in my stepdaughter and ruining her mom's life?
Why are you finding all these? What happened, Reddit?
I, female 30, has posted another AITA query a couple days back regarding whether I am an a-hole for not taking care of my stepdaughter, Eve, personally, and instead hiring a babysitter.
This is her again?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Her account actually got shadow banned, so she created another one just to put this.
Okay.
A lot of the comments blamed me for marrying a man with a child when I want to be child-free. The comments made me see my situation more clearly, and I left Dave. I told him I get how the situation has changed, and since I haven't changed, I cannot spend the next 11 years of my life raising a child or giving her issues because I don't want her around. He begged me to stay, but learning my lesson already, I left. I am staying in a hotel now and will be meeting with lawyers tomorrow. But half an hour ago, I got a call from Eve's mother. She yelled and screamed at me for ruining her life. I didn't get it. I didn't do anything to her. Turns out, about half an hour or so after I left, Dave took Eve back to her house and told her he can't lose his marriage over a child that was a mistake. She said she can't take her in or it would ruin her marriage. He told her she can take him to court and he will pay whatever child support he has to, but he won't sacrifice his life so she can play house with her new guy. She told me I have to take Eve in, and that's the only way she can save her marriage, that Dave will look after Eve as long as I stay with him too. I told her I won't. It's not my responsibility anymore. Eve is her and Dave's child, not mine. And I no longer want to be with a man who keeps putting me in this position. She screamed I was ruining her life. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take Eve in?
Man, you deep dove and found treasure. OP, you're not the a-hole here. You're still an a-hole in your previous, but you're not an a-hole here. Thank you for at least seeing it. I think at this point you did what was best for you and everyone in that household. I will never understand this story. She clearly does not want kids, and at least she's doing the thing she should have done 5 years ago. And hopefully you learned the lesson here.
So the consensus was everyone sucks here, with some saying not the a-hole. Now, I believe the everyone sucks here because of how she's clarified things in the comments, where she says she fell in love with her husband, but it also took her husband 3 years just to convince her to marry him. And that she says that she didn't ask him to choose. I think he's absolutely disgusting. And that she would be okay with this to even begin with kind of shows what kind of character she has.
Sure. At least for our OP, there's some semblance of a human in there. She's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to have a child. I don't want to deal with that for the next 11 years of my life. I'm leaving now. And at least for that 7-year-old, she doesn't have to sit there with someone, because let's say, sake of argument, she goes, you know what? I'm going to do what's best for Dave because I love Dave. Do you really think that her being in that home with that 7-year-old for the next 11 years or however long she's there, do you think that's healthy for that little girl?
No, not even a little.
So she may not want to have children, but she did the most adult thing in that 7-year-old's life that anyone's done for her.
Still breaks my heart for that little 7-year-old. I wish I could just pull her away from all of it. Well, let's go ahead and go to our last story.
I'm scared because you've been lining these up. And that smile on your face.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That smile on your face is not good.
It's innocent.
No, it is not. You brown-eyed she-demon.
Thank you. Am I the a-hole for not giving up my seat and embarrassing the woman who demanded my seat? A few years ago, I, 16 female, lost my left leg in an accident. I've been using a prosthetic leg since then, and because my family is well off, it is a pretty advanced one to the point where it just looks like I just have 2 normal legs whenever I wear long trousers, which I usually do because I'm really self-conscious about showing my prosthetic. These days, I can pretty much do anything I like without issues. Walking, running, going upstairs, etc. The main issue is keeping my balance when there are sudden changes in movement, in places like trains and buses, which is where the topic of this post comes in. I was riding the train and sat down in the seat reserved for disabled, elderly, and pregnant women. It was pretty busy, so there were no other seats available, and a few stops later, a woman came up to me, telling me I needed to move because she needs that seat and I shouldn't be sitting there. I told her I was sorry, but I needed the seat myself. She got all argumentative that I just need to get up because the seat is meant for the elderly and I'm just a lazy child who is more than capable of standing. I again apologized and said I really needed the seat myself. She left and got the train conductor, who also told me to get up from the seat. I was really done with being treated this way now, so I rolled up my trouser leg, showed my prosthetic, and told her I wasn't going to move. She suddenly got very red-faced and mumbled something before she got off at the next station. Am I the a-hole? I could have said I have a prosthetic right away, but it's a really touchy subject for me and it makes me feel very self-conscious. That's why I always wear long trousers so nobody can see or has to know.
I kind of get giddy thinking about this because in my mind, 'tis peak.
My lord.
My lord. OP says she lost her leg a couple years ago and she has the good fortune that her family was able to get her a decent prosthetic.
Correct.
And she's learned how to get around.
She's 16.
Yeah, she's
doing it.
powering through, not letting things hold her back. But she knows her boundaries. She said it. On moving things, it's hard to keep her balance. So she needs to sit. This day on that train, it is full. So there is one spot left, and it is where elderly, handicapped, and pregnant go to sit.
Correct.
She's allowed to be there. My issue has always been when people look at you and they can just perceive that you're this immaculate pillar of health and that by just that one glance, they're allowed to judge you and then tell you what to do. She says it herself. She's very self-conscious about her prosthetic. Hopefully in time she sees it that it's perfectly normal and
you're beautiful the way you are.
Yep. But that's not this story right now. This story is about someone judging her on a train.
Correct.
And wanting them to move. What's interesting is she says the woman is elderly. She says to get up out of here. You look perfectly healthy and young. This seat wasn't made for you.
You're a lazy child.
Yep. And she goes out of her way to go get the conductor. I think that's what she says.
Correct.
So I don't know where they are in this cabin or how far away it is to get to a person for help. I gotta imagine it's a little bit of a walk.
Or they could be closer to the front of the train.
Maybe. But we don't know the logistics.
Correct.
What I do know is she went out of her way to go find someone to tell this lazy child to get out of the seat. That's what I do know. I kind of find it hard to believe that there was no more seats along the way, but that this elderly woman wanted to really prove a point. Point proven. I would have loved to have been there watching that go on, and then to see this woman get put in her place. Just because you're older does not make you all-seeing. Every once in a while when you see someone take an L, oh.
Chef's kiss.
Especially when they deserve it in this way. She was so bothered by this situation that she allowed reasoning to go completely out the door. There's a reason why this girl's sitting there. Especially if you've already asked her to get up and she says no. You're allowed to ask. Because sometimes people do sit in places they don't know they shouldn't be. I could get that, especially when they're young. But if they say, I'm sitting here, I'm sorry, go find someplace else to sit. That should have been the end of it. You shouldn't have had to have accosted her till she brought an employee and then was forced to roll up her pant leg to prove that she has a right to sit there.
I'm glad she was red-faced. Mind your own business.
I would have loved to have seen it every once in a while. It's just nice to see where... it is interesting, though, because we're dealing with a 16-year-old, and she's only posing this question because she feels guilty. Don't feel guilty. Understand that you have a right to boundaries, too. You shouldn't have to walk around life having to prove that you're missing a leg. So, OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. This is a good learning experience, though. Stand your ground.
It is.
And no, don't walk around telling everyone you have a prosthetic leg. That's not your responsibility to do for people.
Well, the consensus is definitely not the a-hole. In fact, it's nobody's business. The moment that you said, I need this seat, it should have been taken as just that. I need this seat. A lot of individuals put it as they're not entitled to your medical history or your private business.
Nope.
So they can go ahead and eat rocks.
She said that line like 5 times in different ways.
It was too good. I had to mess with you a little. I think she shouldn't feel bad. Honestly, OP, you've had to go through something that was extremely traumatic. Losing a part of yourself and then having to adapt. Sure, your parents can have a lot of money. You know what they can't get you back is your limb and the way that it feels to feel whole again. Do not feel like you're missing any part of yourself or that you are less of a person just because you don't have a leg. You are 100% just fine. Every time you look in that mirror, all you have to do is tell yourself that you are 100% wonderful, beautiful, and perfect the way that you are. And that's my TED Talk.
Oh, well, that was our last story?
That was our last story.
That was a great way to end off Friday. Man, you had really terrible stories. So I was scared as we were building up to this.
That I was going to have like the worst story at the end.
I mean, these are all pretty bad, except for this last one.
I didn't want to end it in a way where we'd have a bad taste going into the weekend.
Yeah, this one actually left a good one. I'm happy for our OP.
Good.
Little 16-year-old will make her way through life.
She will
be just fine.
She will be successful. I feel it.
Yeah.
And girl, keep standing your ground.
Yes. It's a good lesson to learn at 16.
Doesn't matter if you're a girl or a guy. Stand your ground when you know you're right.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
I would just like to go ahead and thank all of our Patreons for your amazing support. And if you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
As always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What was your favorite story today?
And what are your weekend plans?
Yeah. We are going to go see A Haunting in Venice.
I know. I'm so excited. A little bit of mystery, a little bit of creepy, and maybe I can convince you into some nun too.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we won't get scared.
Yeah, no, I'd still get scared.